Good morning, welcome along to Epsom Downs with the classics just around the corner of the Oaks and the Derby on the 2nd and 3rd of June. Monday the 22nd of May was their traditional Gallops Morning, and this year supported by the team from Clarehaven, both John and Thady Gosden in attendance to see Running Lion, one of their Oaks fancies to be ridden by Oisin Murphy that morning, and Frankie Dettori's final Derby mount, a rest as he looks for a third Derby in what looks to be his final year in the saddle. Let's see what clues were on offer. John, the Gallops Morning pre-classics at Epsom is something that I've spoken to you many years gone by. It's always been an important date in the calendar for you. Is it as much so today?
Well, I think the spring's been very cold and wet. You don't need to tell anyone that, they know. And so a lot of the horses got a little bit behind. And the Derby is bang at the beginning of June this year. So there's less here, but these horses raced obviously at the Guineas meeting and at Chester, so they had time to come here, see Epsom, have a look at the unique track and have a feel of it rolling down the hill.
We'll start with a rest, the Derby horse, who has had his taster of Epsom today. What was your feel and the rider's feel coming away?
Very happy with the way he came down the hill. I mean, there's no point going down there slowly. Yeah. It's all about getting on the correct leg and being smooth about it. He's a big boy for this track, and they often will argue that tall horses is a difficult track with a lot of leggy, a lot of daylight under them, and I think that's probably to the extent very true of him. Put it this way, he'd be happier running it on a track like Newbury. But he learned a lot round Chester in the tight turns, and he's a lot more coordinated and agile than he was. And the point of coming here today was to improve upon that agility.
Am I right in saying was Chester a backup plan after the cancellation of Sandown?
Well, he was going to Sandown. You can see why a big horse like that, I like the idea of Sandown, round in that 4th furlong up the hill, would suit him well. Planned it, but it was abandoned, so off we went to Chester. Then it rained so heavily, I nearly took him out there, and I thought, well, if I take him out of Chester, I won't be running him anywhere. But look, he's done it very well. He's in great form, and as long as he handles the hustle and bustle of the race and getting positions and all of that, which is so unique about the Derby, I expect a really solid run from him.
And the classic, they are the races you find out that much more the ultimate test of the thoroughbred, and you did with Golden Horn after the Dante and Betty the Dip and so on 20 years prior. Just as regards where Arrest is with his progress right now, is he comparable in any way to those two?
It'd be more comparable probably to Betty the Dip. Okay. Golden Horse was a very moulded, lower to the ground, very athletic, and all came easy to him. For this horse, he has to work at it. He's rather like he's got to work at his technique, if you like, for racing, and there's a difference to that extent. But he's learning very fast, which is just what we want.
It is indeed. How do you assess the Oaks picture at this stage, taking into account your runners?
Well, I went up with Frankie and Ryan on the plane, and he was Ryan was very taken with his filly and won the Chester Oaks in that style, and I kept trying to put him off and saying, well, no, it was the ground, wasn't it? No, and we just got in a little bit of a fun banter. But no, he's very keen on her, and she's a legitimate favourite. Yeah. Having said that, both of the fillies, the filly here Running Lion, and then of course Soul Sister, they won their trials in great style, so they have every right to be in the Oaks. Of course, you have to stay, and but I couldn't be more pleased with both of them at this stage.
I love Running Lion's tenacity. How's she done this morning?
Great, very well, very balanced, finished out well, and he came through to the half furlong mark. We were pulling up at the half furlong mark, and he felt obviously he could go again, but he didn't. He wound up in the stables, but he was very pleased with the racing.
And where we are right now, is it the intention to run both Soul Sister and Running Lion, taking into account the Prix de Diane and so on?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to run in the Oaks and then go on and won the Diane twice. Yeah. Once with a 9-day break, and once with something like a 15-day, 16-day break. And it's a 16-day break this year. So I'd be happy if they're in great order, run them in the Oaks and still look at the Diane. The worry about the Diane, unfortunately, is like the mile at Longchamp. If you draw outside in those high numbers, it's a desperate disadvantage. So if you wait for the Diane and you draw 19 of 20, you will have wished you ran here.
And lastly, I think I've asked you this each and every year, but do the Epsom Classics each and every year still mean as much as the very moment you began the training career or became aware of them?
Yeah, very much so. I think, ever since you were a kid, it was always about the Derby at the Oaks and Epsom. It is a unique test. It's a unique event. Used to be very much the people's race and closed Parliament for it. The only race they closed Parliament for was the Melbourne Cup. So it's a great in our calendar. It's a huge tradition to it, and it's an ultimate test of a thoroughbred. To be able to show the speed, the agility, and then to stay the mile and a half at this stage of their career is a great test.
Final question. Third Group 1 of the meeting is the Coronation Cup. Is there a likely runner at this stage?
Emily Upjohn will be left in the race. We're pleased with her work on the weekend, and she's taken time to come to herself. As I say, a lot of the fillies have been backward in their coat, just feeling the cold weather, rather like people looking at their garden. When's anything going to flower? No different for the fillies in the spring, and to that extent, she's coming ready to run.
And off the back of last year, there's unfinished business with a Group 1 here, of course. Well, to come and win, she was a whisker away from the Oaks.
She's taking on the colts this time.
Yes.
You know, horses like Westover, they can run a bit.
Frankie, what looks to be your last Epsom Classics, just how significant has this place been in your career?
Look, you come into racing as a jockey, your dream is to ride in the Derby, then your second dream is to try to win it. I've been lucky enough to win it twice. It's the most famous race in the world, and I'm coming into my last year with a legitimate chance on a rest. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm very excited, and yes, it is the Epsom Derby, and it's the best race in the world.
I don't think anyone here that day will forget the undiluted joy when you finally won the Derby unauthorised. I know, and it was such an important day for you back in '07.
But, you know, look, if you're a Formula 1 driver and you win every race but not the Monaco Grand Prix, you kick yourself. Or if you're a top golfer, you know, you can win everything but not win the Master, then it's that kind of feeling. Or a tennis player at Wimbledon. So for the career that I've had over 35 years, won every race more or less in the world, and champion jockey and so on and so forth, not winning the Derby would have been, I would have been in my rocking chair being a bit sour. But I'm glad that I broke the ice in 2007 and again 2015, and yeah, it is everything for us. Unfortunately, it only comes once a year, and you ride a different horse every year. So this year I keeping my hopes on a rest.
Well, authorised and Golden Horn, 2 awesome colts. What kind of a feel has the rest given you?
Well, first of all, he's a mile and a half, and the distance is not a problem. He's an improving horse. There's a good size to him. The reason we took him here today to get used to the downhill turn, Tottenham corner, where can catch his horses out, but he seems to deal with it quite well. And you know, the Derby is an open race this year. I haven't seen a decisive trial winner. I mean, there's been good winners, but not anything sluiced it by 5 lengths. So we're going in there with a good chance. Won his trial well, and yes, I'm very happy with him.
How important will ground be for him on the day?
It will be very important. He wouldn't want it too firm because he's so big and he hits the ground really hard. But in general, Andrew, the clerk of the course, does a great job here. In the last few years, I never rode a Derby no worse than good, or sometimes even good to soft. So I'll be one of the few guys praying for the rain.
All right, then, just lastly, Friday with the Oaks as well, the success that you've had in that particular race going back year on year. How do you assess the picture going into the Oaks this year?
Well, I was very impressed by my filly. She won really well. She clocked a good time. Yep. You know, again, she's got to stay the distance. The Aidan O'Brien filly won at Chester by 22 lengths. She looks quite tough to beat. Yeah. But yeah, again, she goes in there with a good shot by winning a trial in great style. So you know, fingers crossed. She's the opposite of Arrest. She will want it too soft.
So the rain can come Thursday night, but not Friday.
Yeah, rain can come Friday night after the Oaks.
Okay, fine. That's the other way around. Yeah. Frankie, best of luck on the final Epsom Classics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oisin here at the Epsom Gallops Morning. What's your takeaway been from what you felt today?
I come away from today very happy that she'll cope with the track. We didn't learn anything about the distance, but won't it be fantastic to find out in the race whether she stays a mile and a half or not. You would never exercise a horse over that far anyway. She handled it really well, very relaxed in the stable yard, and I'm coming away from today really pleased.
She's got a degree of obviously quite a lot of ability, but a real toughness to her. Is that what you've felt so far?
Yeah, she carries herself in a very similar way to her sire. Her head is kind of the same trajectory, and she has the same shoulder as him. He obviously followed Massar in the Derby in 2018, and was still going very well, and then ran out of puff. You know, she has many similar characteristics to him, but who knows, she relaxes very well, and she'll give herself a great chance of staying.
The joy of the moment wouldn't be lost on you and anyone associated with the late Roaring Lion, considering how much he meant to you, the sire, as you mentioned.
He was really special, a world champion 3-year-old. He won 4 Group 1s for me in the summer of 2018. Sheikh Fahd, you know, absolutely adored him, and they supported him really well in his only season at stud, and he has a live chance in the Derby with Dubai Mile also, so it's great that his progeny are doing him proud.
And since the Pretty Polly, just with Running Lion, we've taken stock of what happened at Chester and York. What's been your overriding takeaway?
Yeah, I was impressed with the 2 fillies at Chester. Saved the Last Dance out of a Justify mare. You know, hit the line very well, and I know she has that big action, but type, I don't think she wants really slow ground. So I was impressed by her, and Lady Bamford's filly at York showed a really impressive turn of foot, very fast, and you know, she might have a stamina question mark also, but she would be a fantastic ride for Frankie.
And lastly, what's your, again, from the trials that we've had, it looks wide open, your perspective on the Derby with your own personal view on it?
Well, I was delighted with the Foxes in the Dante. For Andrew and King Power to go there with a horse, you know, that can win is a great feeling. I don't know if he'll stay. He's by Churchill. His half-brother Bangkok was a 1.25 mile horse. He was by Australia. And
they tried him in the Derby.
Yeah, and we'll find out on race day. But he's very sleepy, and he'll give himself every chance. You know, he's going to go to post relaxed, and he relaxes in the race.
Sheen, good luck.
Thank you.
Andrew Cooper, closing in on 3 decades worth of Epsom Classics. Just how excited do you get each and every year at this stage?
Very excited, very excited. Little bit. There's always a little bit of apprehension because you're so conscious of the importance of these classic races, and obviously the Derby in particular. That you know that the team, and which I'm a part of, we're the custodians of it for a period of time, and it's it gets you. It really does sort of get you. You know, you're everything pumping, and it's a brilliant thing to be associated with.
And obviously, in your role, the excitement's there, but the responsibility as well, going forward into 2 of the Premier races of the flat season. How's the weather forecast shaping up between now and a week and a half's time?
Dry.
Okay.
I think really I can't see rain in any quantity, let alone meaningful quantities, in the current sort of outlook for the next sort of fortnight or so. And we've been dry now for about 10 days here. Last rain we recorded was, I think, just a millimetre or so on May the 11th. Early part of May was reasonably wet. April was wet, and we've come off the wettest March we've ever recorded. But you know, we're like everywhere at the moment. Everyone's drying out, and this place is drying out for the dry spell. And we actually started an irrigation program here, middle part of last week, partly always with an eye to the ground conditions for this Gallops Morning, but equally with an eye on the sort of longer term, you know, sort of ground preparation.
If the Oaks was run today, what would the official going be?
I think if we'd raced here today, I would basically have called it good. I think we put some water on Saturday morning. After that, it actually walked probably as the slow side of good. Lovely, you know, nice ground. Dry, breezy day here yesterday, Sunday, and dry this morning. Yeah, I think generally good. Certainly, probably still the odd little bit on the slow side, but increasingly just the odd bit on the quicker side now.
I always find this as well a new sponsor, an ever-evolving meeting for all that it's got the core traditions and the values of the big races itself. It's quite a progressive meeting, the Derby meeting, isn't it?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the big sort of change for Derby Day this year is the addition of an 8th race. You know, partly obviously for sort of the whirlpool purposes. Which will be good. You know, that's exciting. That's a new 5 furlong race for 3-year-olds. Come back another year and run in the dash. Although a 3-year-old can run in the main dash. So yeah, no, I think you've got to, haven't you? You've got to keep sort of looking forward, progressing, making improvements. I mean, the sort of equine welfare side of things is one that we've spent quite a lot of sort of money and time on here certainly over the winter. Sort of new vets boxes, that sort of thing, extended rubberized surfaces around the place. So, you know, if you don't do anything, you don't stand still. You go backwards, don't you? And we're in a competitive industry, and you have to keep looking at your operation and your product and try and sort of, you know, maximise its positives.
I haven't discussed the weather and the likely ground. We've had any number of trials, as we do at this time of year over the last few weeks or so. What's been your takeaway over the last few weeks, be it from Newmarket, Chester or York, or of course Ireland?
Yeah, it's been a curious sort of trial period, I've felt. I mean, the weather's played its part in that, hasn't it? You know, we lost Sandown, for example, and that sort of, you know, probably messed up quite a few people's winter plans. Although
seems unthinkable now, doesn't it, given the conditions since?
Yeah, absolutely. But it was sure it was definitely the right sort of call at the time. It was far too patchy for proper flat racing. And it's only just, actually, to be honest, as a track, it's kind of only just sort of dried out now and settled down, and we sort of feel back in control of it. Sandown. So that didn't help. The wet, several on soft ground, you know, Lingfield affected, and it is a sort of concertinaed sort of period as well this year, isn't it? You know, with the Betfred Derby being on the first Saturday in June, and all the other trials being on pretty much the latest date in the calendar they ever are, because they've sort of moved on a week in date terms. So it's in some ways, perhaps you could say it's struggled to gain a bit of momentum in that respect. I'm not sure we've seen what you'd call an absolutely standout performance in terms of there's been some very good ones, there's been some very impressive ones. But you know, sometimes you get these years where something goes and wins the Dante or whatever by 4 lengths, and it's not one of those years. It looks an open year, doesn't it? Although, having said that, I was kind of sort of thinking we're possibly looking at something like a 14-runner race. I don't think it's going to be a maximum field race. We've got 21 left in, and Aidan O'Brien has 8 of those. So that will be key to the sort of final makeup of the fields, certainly in volume terms. But every year's different, every derby's different. You know, as you say, I've done quite a few of them now. And
well, you've seen some very good winners. So, lastly, again, I think I ask you this each and every year, but what's been your favourite year? Not necessarily for the Derby winner, but the Oaks and the Derby combined.
Oh, crikey! Combined. That is a tough one. I mean, I certainly know that in terms of Derby winners, my sort of standout years would be Galileo and See the Stars. Although from a sort of track point of view, Galileo was not an easy one in going terms. Yeah, no, that was a sort of drying, quickish ground, and should we water the Friday night or not? We didn't, and he won on good to firm and handled it well.
That's just the perspective that only a clerk of the course can have, isn't it? Everyone's got this romanticised view of Galileo and what he did and subsequent career and so on, and you just look back and remember the technicalities of the day. Yeah.
I can remember sat down, almost crouching down by the winning post after racing on the Friday with the then head groundsman, a lovely guy called Nigel Thornton, and just sort of scratching heads thinking, what do we do? Do we touch it? Do we leave it? Do we whatever? We decided to leave it, and the rest, as they say, is history. And the key thing with sort of looking back to sort of Galileo and indeed See the Stars is that their sons have gone on and won derbies. You know, it just shows the importance of the race to the breed and
their daughters.
And their daughter, absolutely. You know, it's very special.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Nick.
Brian Finch, local man and now chair of Epsom Racecourse ahead of your first derby. Just describe what that means to you.
It's a very special place, this, Nick, and we're lucky enough to be standing here and you have this vista around you. I get excited. I'm a racing fan, first of all, who just happens to be part of the jockey club and get a chance to be here every day, so to speak. So it's just brilliant. Can't wait for the first Derby. Can't wait.
Well, absolutely right. And the Derby, the Oaks, the festival, has it always been a meeting that particularly captivates you?
Yes, born and bred in Zimbabwe, and it's the one race, if you're a flat fan in particular, that you grow up with. If you understand horse racing and you aspire to it. Lister Piggott was my hero, the late Lister Piggott. So trust me, every time I walk around here, I walk to the statue. I pay my respects. I do, because you sit back and think, well, this is where it all happened. This is where the love of the sport came from, and it's like a dream come true. And yet I couldn't even dream that I would be doing this. It was so far-fetched, and here it is, it's happened.
It is, it's so close. There's already been a fixture here, and I guess that fixture earlier this season was notable for the incredible, huge artwork of Frankie Dettori, who, talking of legendary jockeys, is seemingly going to be riding at his final set of Epsom Classics. For that to be your first is quite a landmark in itself.
It's brilliant just to have Frankie's presence here. He is the face, the voice, the persona of the sport. And that's got to be a challenge for the sport going forward, is who follows after Frankie. But that's for next year. For now, we're going to enjoy him every day, every time he's around. He's riding at the top of his game. And he came here to Epsom, you know. He's got the mural, which I think was a good, wonderful tribute to him and his exploits on this track.
He said he was gobsmacked, and I think actually the size of it, when people see it, they'll feel the same.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge, and he deserves it, by the way. He's that big in our sport, and he was fantastic today, this morning, and you can see he's enjoying it. It's got to be tough for him too, you know. There's bittersweet moments of, is it really coming to an end? But how perfect will it be if Arrest can do what he hopes he can do and become his last ride and a Derby winner? It would be just brilliant. Yeah,
be some enduring images, to say the least. Obviously, there is real excitement and positivity, but there are challenges along the way. Not least the travel for people to get here, as a consequence as well of knock-on events of sporting events going on elsewhere across the capital city. We've got a different Derby time as well. Have you just found it a natural process to work with the various authorities in this?
Very much so. Clearly the biggest factor was waiting to find out which two teams were going to play in the FA Cup, and then it's a Manchester Derby. So
was that an agonising penalty shootout, therefore, for you?
Well, it was, because you're kind of wondering how's it all going to play out, and it could be very, very different if fans were coming from Brighton. Now you've got two Manchester teams coming down. So I think for the FA, I think they've got the final that perhaps they wanted. But it comes with complications, not just for them, but for all the other events happening in and around on that day, and in our case the Derby. But it is what it is. For the people that are here, they'll be able to enjoy another edition of the Derby. It is a unique race. It only happens once a year. And then if they want to switch on their phones and watch a bit of football in the afternoon, they'll be able to do that in and amongst the racing. So it could be a double good day, if that makes sense, that people can do both things in this beautiful venue.
And working with network television and so on, there's lots of knock-on effects, I guess. Does the 1:30 start time pose a particularly sort of unique set of circumstances or tricky issues to get over for you and your team?
We'll be ready. If it was the first race on the day, we'd be ready, and Ascot do that well with the Queen Anne. It's a Group 1, and they do that, so we'll be ready. The key is going to be that there's good momentum throughout the day, and I think the card shows that there's good racing. There'll be enough to keep everybody occupied. There'll be enough activities happening on the infield and in and around the course. For those that are coming, I can assure you they will have a great day, and hopefully it'll encourage them to come back again next year.
Absolutely. There is, of course, the continued talk of protests after what we saw at the Grand National a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago as it is now. I know that Animal Aid have been on record, I think, as saying that the Epsom track is unpoliceable given its size, but I gather that you as a team with the Jockey Club as well, working with Surrey Police to make it as secure, safe and, well, as best possible to get the race off on time.
Yeah, and Nevin Truesdale, the Chief Executive of the Jockey Club, has been absolutely adamant that the Jockey Club will do whatever it has to do, working with the police, to make sure that the horses are safe, that the participants are safe, that the public who have paid money to come here have a good day. And there's lots of plans plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, plan 26, it just keeps going on for all sorts of eventualities. Surrey Police have been fantastic. They've committed to helping us deliver the Derby again this year. And with a bit of luck, we'll get it off on time or as close as possible to the 1:30 start.
Love to hear that. And just around us right now, standing and looking over the racecourse, everywhere you look, be it the crash of a hammer or something whirring away, things are getting ready. We're only a week and a half or so away. Are ticket sales what you'd want them to be? Do the attendances look good across the 2 days?
They were tracking really well. Pretty similar to what we've seen with the big festivals. Although they're National Hunt, they were tracking pretty well. The train strikes are a challenge.
Yes.
It's pretty simple. If you can't get there, you're probably not going to go.
Yeah.
Which I guess is an opportunity for media, because I think people will still consume the Derby, whether they're here or whether they're elsewhere watching it on television. As long as they're vested and interested in the Derby and engaging with it, I think that's got to be an upside for all of us. And it's a national event, it's an international event, and the role that you as media play in helping promote this iconic race is absolutely critical. So for those that make the effort to come here, I can assure you you'll have a good day, you'll have an enjoyable day, and you'll want to come back. And for those that are watching it from the outside, I hope it encourages you, if circumstances go in your favour next year, to want to come yourself. But please do enjoy the Derby in whatever form you're engaging with it.
Brian, thank you. I'm going to round this off with bringing it full circle to how we began, with you saying as a racing fan, the Derby is everything. So as a racing fan, not just as the chair of the racecourse, what has been your favourite Derby?
I'll say the Minstrel, 1977. But Troy meant quite a bit. He was great. He was fantastic, and he had such an iconic name. So much so that my son is called Troy, and I keep reminding him his name for a Derby.
Because of the 79?
Yeah, I love the name, but it was a horse, and he's mad keen on racing today. So that's got a bit of personal attachment as well. But 77, the Minstrel, I think is the one that sticks out for me.
Wonderful. Brian, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Subscribe to Racing TV's YouTube channel now to watch more great races like this.